Welcome to the Depth Dive. Today we're getting into something called the Mace Energy Method, or MEM.
Right.
It's a pretty unique take on emotional well-being. You shared some really fascinating sources, and, well, our mission is to unpack it. What is it? How is it supposed to work?
And what makes it tick, yeah. What jumps out first is the philosophy behind it, which is called causism.
Causism, okay.
Developed by a guy named John Mace. And it's framed as kind of a new way to look at emotional health altogether.
A new lens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of just, looking at the ripples of the symptoms, causism tries to find the pebble, the actual cause.
Ah, okay. The name makes sense then. Cause and ism, focusing on the origin.
Precisely. And MEM, the Mace Energy Method, that's the practical application. That's how you use causism.
Sure.
The core idea. It's actually quite straightforward. It suggests our feelings aren't just happening to us. They're actively running the show.
Running the show. How so?
Well, influencing our decisions, our actions, even our thoughts and words, our whole attitude, really. So the big goal of MEM is to help people get back in the driver's seat, achieve their dreams by tackling whatever's causing those negative feelings or behaviors right at the source.
Right. So how does this MEM actually differ from, say, traditional therapy? What makes it stand out?
Okay, well, one big difference is the focus. Traditional therapy often digs deep into the effects of things that happened, the symptoms you feel now.
Yeah, makes sense.
MEM, though, it sticks to that causism idea. It's laser-focused on the cause, finding and dealing directly with whatever kicked off those unwanted feelings in the first place.
Okay, cause, not effect. And I found this part really interesting from the sources. It seems like it doesn't require a ton of self-disclosure.
That's a huge point, yeah. You don't necessarily have to spend hours recounting painful past events or telling your whole life story in detail.
Which could be a relief for some people, I imagine.
Absolutely. The sources really highlight this privacy aspect. It's quite different. Revisiting trauma repeatedly can be really tough, even re-traumatizing for some. MEM seems to offer a way around that deep narrative dive, focusing elsewhere.
And it seems faster. The sources mention potential results pretty quickly.
That comes up a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
The idea that you might feel a real shift, maybe in just 1 or 2 sessions.
That's definitely different. And what about control? You mentioned taking control, but what about in the session itself?
Another key thing, they call it client sovereignty.
Sovereignty?
Meaning you, the client, are always in control, fully. The practitioner isn't like doing something to you, they're guiding.
Okay, guiding. So no diagnosing or advising?
Right. No evaluation, no counseling in that traditional sense. They help you find your own insights. The belief is you're the expert on you.
Right. You know what's best for yourself, ultimately.
Exactly. It all ties back to this strong theme of personal empowerment, helping people become, the architects of their own lives.
Okay, architects of their lives.
Yeah.
I like that. Now let's dig into a really core concept you mentioned. Negative identities. What are those?
Okay, so this is where MEM gets into the idea of an energetic universe. It suggests that negative feelings and behaviors aren't just random or purely chemical. They come from these things called negative identities. Think of them like energy patterns you accidentally created during setting moments.
Accidentally, like you didn't mean to.
Exactly. Often in childhood or during trauma. It's like an energetic imprint gets left behind unconsciously.
An imprint?
Yeah, and these imprints, these energy patterns, they can then run in the background, influencing how you feel and act without you even realizing it.
Like hidden programming.
That's a good way to put it. And the main goal of MEM is to help you find these patterns and essentially discreate them, turn them off.
So it's not like a belief I consciously hold, like I think I'm not good enough. It's deeper than that, more energetic.
Precisely. The sources emphasize they're created unintentionally.
Yeah.
Like a reflex almost, a survival thing when you felt overwhelmed. And because you didn't consciously choose them, you're often totally unaware they're even there. But they could be shaping your reality.
That kind of makes sense, actually. The sources gave examples, right? Like, I'm not good enough or I'm unlovable.
Yeah, those are common ones. Or more general states like feeling chronically anxious or depressed or seeing yourself as a victim. These feelings can get really stuck.
And they contrast these with positive identities.
Right. Causism says we also create positive energy patterns, often consciously, things that help us.
Like what?
Well, the classic example given is learning to be a car driver.
Yeah.
You consciously learn it, practice it, and then it becomes almost automatic. It serves you.
Okay. Or maybe like being a confident speaker or good at solving problems.
Exactly. Things you intentionally cultivate that help you thrive.
So we're building these energy blueprints all the time. Some helpful, some not so much. Okay, let's shift a bit. What about the history? Where did causism and mem actually come from? Sounds like quite a story.
It really is unique. It starts with John Mace, the founder. He apparently had this profound out-of-body experience back in 1959.
Whoa. Okay.
And that experience totally changed his perspective, kicked off this decades-long deep dive into human behavior healing. He studied all sorts of existing therapies.
So it wasn't just a sudden flash of inspiration.
No, far from it. It was years of searching, studying, that apparently in 1997, working with a colleague, John Avery, Mace had another key insight. Something about the nature of the mind. And that insight was really the catalyst. It set him on the path to developing this whole new approach.
And mem, the method itself, came out of that work later.
Yeah. Over the next couple of decades, he refined the theory, developed the actual techniques. That's when it solidified into causism as the knowledge base and mem as the practical method.
Interesting.
And one thing Mace apparently always insisted on was that he felt he was discovering something, like uncovering natural laws about how we work, not just inventing concepts.
Discovering, not inventing. That's a different way to frame it.
Yeah, he saw it as revealing something already there.
And now, as the sources say, it's practiced internationally by trained practitioners. So it grew from one person's experience into, well, a whole system.
Exactly. It's become this formalized approach people use to work through emotional stuff.
Okay, we've covered a lot ground here, the basics, the philosophy, the history. Let's try to wrap up with the key takeaways for listeners. What should they really remember?
Well, I think the absolute core of mem is identifying and discreating those negative identities.
Those energy patterns from past upsets.
Right. The idea is they're the hidden drivers of unwanted feelings and actions. And what makes mem distinct is that focus on the cause, not just the symptoms.
Cause, not effect. We keep coming back to that.
And crucially, that you generally don't need to do that deep dive into storytelling or reliving past trauma.
That minimal disclosure aspect. Yeah. And what about results? What kind of changes could someone hope for? The sources listed quite a few potential benefits.
They did. The list is pretty encouraging, actually. Things like more self-confidence, better self-esteem, more emotional stability, healthier relationships, maybe being more productive or creative, even shifts in financial well-being, or finding a clearer sense of purpose, and, of course, reducing things like anxiety and depression.
So it's not just about feeling less bad, but actually feeling more capable, more empowered.
That seems to be the goal,
Yeah.
Cultivating a more positive and resourceful way of being.
Okay, so if someone's listening and thinking, maybe I want to look into this, what's a typical first step? What's this foundation session like?
Right, the foundation session. It's usually one-on-one with a certified practitioner, often done remotely, like over a video call.
Convenient.
Yeah, and it's a guided process. You'd close your eyes, focus your attention as they instruct. But again, the key is no need to recount events or tell your story in detail.
Right.
The first session is typically around 2 hours. Then there's usually a follow-up, maybe an hour, about a week later.
And people might feel different after just that first session.
Many report feeling, lighter, calmer, even after just that initial session. The practitioner is basically guiding you to release those old energy patterns.
That potential for quick shifts is definitely a recurring theme. Now, there was a really important warning almost in the materials. This isn't DIY.
Absolutely critical point. MEM is not a self-help technique. You can't just read a book and do it yourself.
Why not?
It requires a trained practitioner. The analogy they used was pretty good. You can't see the outside of your own car when you're sitting inside it.
You need an outside perspective.
Exactly. For these deeply embedded negative identities, you need someone trained who can see the patterns from the outside. Patterns you might be totally blind to.
Someone to step outside the frame with you. Makes sense. Let's touch on that energetic universe idea again. How does that specific viewpoint shape MEM?
Well, MEM operates from that perspective that we're energetic beings in an energetic universe. So it works directly with energy patterns, not just, say, thoughts or brain chemistry alone. Emotions themselves are seen as energy in motion. Emotion. Emotion. And negative emotions are viewed as these like low vibration energy blockages or ridges tied to those negative identities. MEM aims to release those blockages. Let the energy flow again.
So it's going for a fundamental energetic level, maybe beneath conscious thoughts. And the sources also had a specific take on the mind's role in all this.
Yeah, that was interesting. According to causism, The mind's main job is just creating mental pictures, like an image generator.
Just pictures, not thinking and deciding.
Well, the higher functions analysis, decision-making, planning, those are seen as functions of the spiritual being, like your core consciousness, not the mind mechanism itself.
Huh. That's fair.
It is, and MEM supposedly uses this understanding to help discreate the negative energy patterns without getting stuck in, endless loops of mental analysis.
Right, avoiding overthinking it. Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's a final thought for our listeners to maybe chew on?
Okay, how about this? Just consider the possibility. What if those negative feelings you've had for ages, or those limiting beliefs that feel so ingrained, what if they aren't actually who you are? What if they're just the echoes, the lingering effects of these negative identities, these energy patterns you unknowingly created way back when?
Just echoes?
Yeah. And if that's true, what might actually open up for you? What could become possible if you could address those patterns directly at the root without having to rehash all the old stories or spend years talking about it?
Addressing the root cause directly, without the narrative.
Exactly. It's a different way to think about it, perhaps. And maybe, just maybe, it's something worth looking into a bit more.